We've now had 2 days of televised hearings with the January 6th Select Committee. A lot of bombshells have come out, many things that we didn't know, a lot of things that some of us did know. But overall, the public is finally getting their first taste of this. And joining me now to help explain what we've seen so far is Jesse Dollemore, the host of I Doubt It podcast and the Dollemore Daily on YouTube. So Jesse, it's wonderful to have you here on Ring of Fire. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Farron. I appreciate you taking the time to slum it with the likes of me.
Oh, you're wonderful. Now listen, all right. So we haven't last week on the Ring of Fire podcast, we released a little early prior to the first hearing. So we have not talked yet on this show about any of the hearings. We had Thursday night, we had Monday. So before we even get into really any specifics, just overall, what's been your takeaway from not just the information, but just the way it's been presented? You know, what's your big overall thought about what we've seen so far?
Well, because I'm someone who is critical when I think criticism is due on both sides, but especially my team, the Democrats, I was a little worried that they weren't going to get it right. They were going to fumble the ball a little bit, and I've actually been very surprised and very pleased with the manner with which they've done this. They've avoided a circus-like atmosphere, and really they're laying this thing out in a way that's very easily digestible to the average voter, and I think they're making headways. And hopefully, I said this last week, but hopefully there will be some level of evaporation of support from Donald Trump, even among people who consider themselves Trump supporters, because I think the Democrats are doing such a good job here.
That was one thing, I had talked in that show last week with Heather Digby Parton from Salon. We were worried, about how the Democrats could handle this, because this is a big operation. This is everything. This is the Super Bowl. You got to put it all out there on the line, and you have to do it almost flawlessly. And I agree with you. To their credit, to my surprise, they have done an exceptionally good job. The presentations, intersplicing it with the testimony from Trump's people themselves. And I think that is hugely powerful, because they're not necessarily the ones telling the story. They're letting Trump's people via these testimonies tell the story. And I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I think it's also, to piggyback on that brilliantly said point, Farron. It also, I think, is good that as much as I have almost nothing exclusively but disdain and contempt for Liz Cheney, I'm glad that they are giving her as much airtime as they are, because it's going to ring more true from someone who can't be considered a rhino or what other pejorative that they want to sling at her. She is a fascist enabler, if there ever was one. It just, for some reason, in this particular case, she's not being one. And then, I don't know if this is to wrap the topic, but the other thing that I was very pleased with is how much they were able to, they're very prepared. When Stepien decided, when his wife went into labor and he was unable to make it, they had a backup plan. It wasn't just, I guess we're screwed. They're thinking ahead, knowing that there are going to be wrenches thrown into the works, and they seem prepared to handle those.
So let's talk about some of the big revelations we've seen so far. I think one of the biggest, from last week's part of it, primetime, which, 20 million people tuned in. That alone is huge. I know, obviously, It's not the biggest audience, but when you had every network, ABC, NBC, CBS, and MSNBC, all beating Fox News. Poor little CNN still couldn't do it. They were still falling behind Fox News.
Yeah.
But everybody else beat them, which is great. It means people were interested. They wanted to see what happened. So Thursday night, we find out we got a gaggle of Republicans. We only know one name so far, Scott Perry, that sought those little preemptive pardons from Donald Trump. I think that's pretty massive. That is essentially consciousness of guilt in these people's minds. They knew they did something wrong, so
absolutely,
please give me a pardon. And luckily, Trump didn't grant those wishes for him.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of speculation about who the others are, whether it be Mo Brooks or Andy Biggs or Paul Gosar. There was reporting early last year or mid into the year last year that Paul Gosar had floated blanket pardons for people who took part in the insurrection and in the Stop the Steal movement. But he doesn't really, that's not his purview to be offering presidential pardons. But it is absolutely a seismic event to be dropped on the world, the country, that Republican congressmen are out there trying to cover their asses, so to speak, by looking for clemency at the very least, or a full presidential pardon for their crimes.
To get this full interview and access to the complete Ring of Fire podcast archives, sign up at rofpodcast.com and become a member.